I have a lot. I'm doing a lot. I decided to bite off a whole lot this season, and it's catching up with me. And I am producing a lot at the same time, but actual sleep, oh my God, seriously, I took a nap today. It was glorious.
Also, this week, after a huge amount of negotiation and discussions with all involved, sadly, we've been unable to get Robb's sister. So in her place, Robb has decided to step in. So we've got a new P in the pod.
My apologies from Ginger herself, yes.
But this leads us into really a topic, really, which is, obviously Robb has been part of the Catch-22 since the outset, but just not here in the Creators Pod because of other life priorities. So it seems like a good point to talk about priorities and how we sort of fit content creation into all of that. But perhaps first of all, a bit of an introduction is in order. So maybe Robb, you want to talk a little bit about, where you are in the content creation space and what your life priorities have been of late as well, and how that sort of influenced what you're doing with content creation.
Well, my name is Robb Vaules, and I live in a southwestern state that I've failed to realize where I'm at sometimes. But lately, up until the general election, I was a candidate for public office in Arizona. And so, and that, I was part of the 22 group before that. And I made the announcement to those folks about a year and a half ago that I was going to do this. And everyone that you see now has been very helpful and very supportive. Fortunately and unfortunately, I lost.
Fortunately for us.
Yeah, for us anyway.
Right.
Jinx.
Unfortunately for the students of your district.
Right, exactly. And so fascism has come to my school district, and otherwise I'm here helping guide people and help people. And I think that the two priorities that I've got in terms of the creation space is my love of Disney. And then I have been meeting with a few local people to help candidates in the next election cycle run for school board. And my goal there will be to teach them social media, media buying, anything that they need specifically to be a candidate and be a successful candidate in the 2024 election cycle. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm glad to be joining you now at this point.
Yay!
Yay.
Finally.
We're just so excited that you're
freaking
here.
time.
We're all paying voters to vote the other way so that we can get you
right?
back.
And in fairness, my sister does knock it out of the park every day. She live streams for a company that does home decor kits and things like that. And every day of late, she's been on Facebook and has 75 viewers. So yeah, if you want to, you make fun of this situation, but she does knock it out of the park every day. So yeah,
we're still negotiating. We're
not making fun at all. We're trying to figure out how to get her to go to your house.
Yeah,
exactly. We need that audience.
Yes,
definitely.
Right.
And how about everyone else? So, I know that everyone's really got other priorities that sort of get in the way of their content creation, if you want to put it like that. We've all got other things. I know that I've got certain things that take me away from content creation, which has become a sort of main love of things that I do. Michelle, how about you? What's your what are the things that get in the way of your content creation?
Actual sleep. A girly is tired, okay? A girly is tired. I have a lot. I'm doing a lot. I decided to bite off a whole lot this season, and it's catching up with me. And I am producing a lot at the same time, but actual sleep, oh my God, seriously, I took a nap today. It was glorious. I need more of those. But seriously, just life in general, just work in general. And this is for content creators who are not 100% doing just that. You have a 9 to 5 that you go out and do, and then you come home and there's family, and everybody in my house got COVID right now. I'm like, what the hell? All you people stay away from me. I have to work. Okay. But at the same time, just, life in general. And so it's just one of those things where you just kind of figure out your priorities, figure out what you got to do. Everybody got to eat. So guess what? Mama got to work. So yeah, we got to do this.
And how have you found the sort of the process of trying to find the time for it? I know you've been at various levels of busyness, shall we say, with different things that you've been doing and in your work and so on. So how do you go about sort of carving out that time, and where does sort of content creation sit as a priority?
So content creation for me is a priority because one day I hope that this would eclipse what I'm doing on my 9 to 5, so that this would be my true job. So I take time to do this in the time that I love to create, which is at night. I know my circadian rhythm. I know I produce a lot of my best work at night. And so that's usually the time that I prioritize. When I am in this room, this is the room where I create, and my family knows it. Everybody knows it. So when I'm in here, that's what I do. However, I know there's only 24 hours in the day, and going to bed at 3 o'clock and then having to be up at 5, I can't keep doing that. So, yeah. I know. That's why I said I need sleep. Okay. A girlie needs sleep, but I like sleeping during the day. So it's kind of not working with the day job. You know what I'm saying? But you do it as much as you possibly can. And then your body is like, all right, hold up. You just need to stop for a minute. So planning, that's why I plan so much. Planning is a big thing for me. I have to figure out what I'm going to be doing and try to plot it out, and then work backwards to try to get to my, to my destination. So even though it may seem as though I'm spinning around in the mud, I'm actually moving the needle forward with my crazy schedule. It's working somehow, but eventually I'd like it to be a little bit more efficient. I'm not there yet, but I love it to be a little bit more efficient, where I can really control that time, so that when I'm actually here in this room, I know that, okay, I'm 6 months out. I don't have to worry. I don't have to go, oh my God, I don't have anything going up tomorrow, because that's exactly what's happening tonight. I have to make the content for tomorrow. So I want to be that far ahead of the game, where I don't feel like I am so stressed, where, oh my God, I got to produce, like that. So.
I think there's a lot to be said for making a solid plan. And sometimes it feels like when you're in the process of doing it, I know that's the situation I'm in at the moment, is making this plan of, the content schedule and stuff like that. And now just going through the process of trying to get all the stuff together. But I think it's something that does pay off in the long run if you've got that sort of plan for the future content all sort of set up. But basically, I think you've got something which is similar to a lot of people who start out as content creators, where it is always something that is secondary to another primary role that you've got, because we've all got to sort of pay the bills, and whether or not we've got our sights set on content creation becoming the sort of primary source of income, or whether it is something that's just a hobby or something documenting a passion or something like that. It is an ongoing struggle to sort of find the time, because it can take a lot of time. Perhaps, Dina, you can talk about that, because obviously you've got a full-time role, and you've got to fit in this sort of passion for what you're doing around that. And how are you finding that?
It's not working right now. I'm not gonna lie, it is not working right now. I've got the 9 to 5. And then, I am trying to get better about sleeping, because that's going to be the long-term investment in myself. So I am forcing the 8 hours a night. So now we're at 16 hours used up. Running the home place single-handedly, well, 2 hands, but just me, is a lot. And then there's this content creation gig, and then 3 little dogs to take care of. Yeah, I took that on myself, but there's a lot, when the opportunity for something that you didn't plan for comes along and you have to take it or wish you had taken it. And what I mean there is a show dog came up, a possible show dog was born, and I was tracking that litter, and he looks like a good one. So I took the leap, but it's taken a lot of time right now, and I'm having to figure out how I'm going to do it all. I'll figure it out. That's not at all an issue. But today I was looking at it and going, this isn't working, because I did my tech check for tomorrow and nothing's working. So it's for me, it comes down to what's the most important thing. Just if I was to be dying today, what would I wish I had done differently? And I'm going to go do it the way that I feel is the right way. So for me today, it was, yeah, cameras aren't working, but this little puppy is only going to be a little puppy for a minute. And that's what enriches me right now. So I'm going to figure out the camera problem, or we're not going to have a stream tomorrow, but I still feel like I can go to bed tonight knowing that I made the right decision for my time.
That's cool. I mean, that's really the whole essence of the conversation, really, is having these priorities and understanding where those are. And then, content creation, whilst we might want that to be a bigger part of our life, sometimes it isn't the top priority. I've talked before about how I had things come up in my life this year that basically had to take priority. Some of them were, I wanted them to be, others that just came up that I didn't really have any choice over, but we just have to deal with those priorities. But as you say, as long as you're comfortable with the way that the priorities are stacked, then I think that's cool. And in terms of it not all working right from the outset, we're all kind of learning here, I think, aren't we? So, we don't expect things to just sort of work right straight out of the gate, because a lot of this is all sort of new to us anyway. And it's a case of figuring out, what's working. And in my case, having you guys to talk about all this to help me figure it out. And how about you, Keely? I mean, you've been, I would think of all of us, I kind of feel like you're the full-time content creator of all of us in terms of, what you're doing with FH umpires. And, I felt like you'd got a lot more experience under your belt, as it were, when, certainly when I joined the group, having been doing that for, so long comparatively, and that being sort of your primary focus as well. I feel. So how do you feel about that? And then balancing the priority of the two different content creation sides of things with FH umpires and Discord for creators. How do you find that balance?
Yeah. That is hilariously scary, that you think of me as being the most experienced person in this group of that sort of thing, because that's definitely not how I feel. And when Dina said that her balance isn't working right now, I'm like, yeah, that me. Right there, that me. Not because I have a 9-to-5 that I'm trying to keep, or I have children, or I have a life at all, but just what I'm trying to achieve with my competing to entrepreneurial things. And then, I have volunteer things. I still playing field hockey every weekend and trying to devote time to that club and serving on governance boards and picking up this new opportunity that's coming down the road. There's just, I feel probably exactly like the rest of you, and exactly how people who are listening at home feel, which is, this is crazy out of control and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm trying to be nicer to myself about that and stop expecting that I have it figured out. Stop expecting that when I make a schedule, I'm actually going to keep to it. Because half the time it's just, something lights on fire and I'm going to grab the extinguisher. That is the thing that I'm going to deal with. And that's okay. And I should give myself that grace that it's good not to burn up. So, we're heading, as we're recording this, we're heading into the holiday season, which most people take as a great time to sort of rejuvenate and recover and spend time with family and friends. And for me, it's going to be a time where I'm going to cocoon. I'm going to burn through a bunch of things that I really want to get done in terms of backlogs of creation work that don't involve the forward-facing stuff, because I've been doing so much forward facing, doing the live streams, doing talks, being on podcasts, being in Twitter spaces, I feel as though I'm talking all the time. And as great as that is for the universe, it really takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of lot of that creativity out of me. So to be able to hole up for 10 days, I'm like, come on, 10 days, I'm going to do it. And just be able to pump out that kind of work, look ahead to 2023 and figure out, okay, can I just plan a few things? Can I just get a few things down on the task list is going to really, really help me. And I think just make me feel more empowered to stick to my plan.
And so in terms of like when Discord for Creators emerged and you started
like it just
that,
spontaneously was born,
it
right?
spontaneously appeared, didn't it? But I mean, in terms of when that came, because you were so focused on FH umpires, but then that sort of came about. How did you find that in terms of when I talk about FH umpires, obviously it's like something that is you're basically creating content about your passion, and that has been the main sort of driving force is where I was getting at with that. But then Discord for Creators came up, and that is something that you're equally, or not equally, but it's something that you're passionate about, I should say. And so how did you find that in terms of that then becoming a secondary content creation priority and maybe taking you away from FH umpires, which is, a lifelong passion, perhaps? Correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's, how did you find that, and something tugging you away from something where you had got, this niche that you were in that was, you were so focused on? How did you find that, the pull of another content creation endeavor?
I use a lot of relationship analogies here, so hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I really do feel like when I started Discord for Creators that I was cheating on FH umpires. I felt really bad. And I felt this sort of, how can I focus on this other thing, and is this other relationship going to die, and how do I handle all these things, and I'm juggling, and I don't want them to be in the same room together at the same time. It was all this weird sort of fear, and I would get caught up in the momentum of one project and then go, holy crap, I have a live stream for FH Empires tomorrow and I haven't even thought about what I'm going to present. So catching myself in that has been difficult, but it's gotten easier with time, just like everything else we're doing. I'm in more of a rhythm. I'm still not creating content for Discord for Creators the way that I want to. It's just not the second nature the way that my FH Umpire stuff is. But like you said, I've been doing that for a long time. And I've built up my community there. They look after me as much as I look after them. And that makes all of that easier. So with Discord for Creators, I have to understand that I'm at that nascent point. I am just starting. So it's going to take a while before I really understand what's going to hit. What platforms am I really going to focus on? Where is my community going to be? And what do they need from me? And it's going to take a while. So it's been awkward at times, but nobody's broken up with me yet. So we're still going strong with both businesses, and we'll see what happens in 2023.
Cool. Well, I mean, like with Discord for Creators, it is obviously that thing of having to sort of find your feet and find out what's working and start all over almost with that. Yeah. And how about you, Rich? I know that you're constantly balancing the content creation with your sort of primary gig, and that's sort of a constant thing with you that I'm hearing with finding the time for content creation. And you've obviously got a core priority there, but then how do you deal with that sort of emotionally and physically to fit this all in?
I hire out the help. I need help, so I hired people to do it, so I don't have to be up all night long like some of you guys, because I got lucky and found a VA that knows how to do a lot of the grunt work. So I can generate the main focus and then have him cut it up and create the pillars and then send it back. The problem is I still got to generate descriptions and titles and uploads and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff still takes time. And and I haven't focused on that because I'm running the real business, and the real business puts money in the pocket. So, and you've got to pay attention to that. About 4 months ago, you guys know earlier this year, I was going to do a help business or something where I would start a second business as a consultant to this industry. and it kind of went by the wayside because we started getting busy in the main business. So I think I'm going to focus on the main business and put the help thing to the side for a year and try to build this thing up to where it's, I don't know, to where there's more room to hire more people, more room to bring more people in to run it. So I don't have to be such a focal part. Hardest part of my thing is having to be chained to the desk and chained to the phone all day. Cause you can't do anything creative when you're putting out fires all day long. So, that's the goal, is to get that to a point to where I don't, during working hours, I don't have to be on so much. And I have more room to do creative stuff. So that's where my focus is going to be anyway for 2023. And we'll see how it goes. But
I think the way that you've done the VA thing, I mean, a lot of people do that and it doesn't work out at all because they
I just got lucky
in the wrong way.
The first guy I talked to, well, the fifth guy I talked to actually was worth something. The rest of them just didn't reply. It's really funny, but he's awesome and he's appreciative, and I figured out a way to send him stuff like physical goods from here to there on the cheap from an outfit called Johnny Cargo or something. It's a really clever, cheap way to send stuff to the Philippines. But he's great and he's appreciative, and he's got a neat little family, and it's really awesome. He's a really good guy.
And you say about that you got lucky, but really you didn't get lucky. It was a case of you obviously knew the right questions to ask because you took on the right person.
True.
You've
I guess you're
talked
right,
about, these other things that you've put in place. And I can tell you that when the things started coming through, like I was seeing the content that he was producing versus what you were producing, I really didn't notice the transition.
Yeah.
So you had obviously done something to, to actually explain exactly what you wanted in very clear terms that weren't misunderstood, to the point where I didn't even notice the transition. And then you just told us one week, like, oh yeah, this past week he's been doing, cranking out the content. And I was like, oh, that was this other guy. I didn't realize.
It's really right. Excellent that he does it. In fact, he's so fast, I had to come up with other things for him to do. So it's really, I don't know, it's a godsend, I guess. It's great. It's great having help like that knows what they're doing. It's awesome.
There's a huge market, I'm quite sure, for people to actually learn how to do that from someone like you who's gone through the process and knows the questions to ask, or did whatever you did to get it right. There's definitely something in there, and
true.
It's a good way to actually give more priority to, or when you can't give a priority to the content creation, to actually keep the things going. With me, it's a case of, if other things come up, then my my content creation goes down, and then when I focus more time on it, it goes up. So I do like the way that you did that as a solution to it from the outset.
Your business are you not full-time content creation and consulting kind of stuff, or is that not your thing anymore?
Not totally full-time at the moment. No. I'm certainly more than 2 hours, but that I was doing for the first sort of year. But no, I've still got other things that I need to do. But the consult, it's over 50% now, I'd say, of the time that I'm devoted to this. So I have got other stuff that I've sort of farmed out to people and got going on with other people. But it's certainly a much higher priority than it was for the first year.
But isn't a lot of the stuff you're doing that's not content creation a result of content creation?
Well, yeah, a lot of stuff is, but I've still got other interests in other things going on as well.
The finance stuff and the social marketing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
it's just not something that takes the majority of my time anymore. So things that were my responsibility before, I've got other people are doing that now. So the one thing that I haven't done, even though I do use VAs for other stuff, I haven't done with my content creation, is because I haven't got to the point where I feel like I've got a process that I can farm out to somebody, basically. So I just like the way that you sort of took that on, and it just embedded so quickly in a really successful way.
Yeah, it worked out.
It certainly did. From the outside, it did, at least.
And then going forward, we'll try to think of other stuff to do. In my business, I never wanted to be the guy that sells pens on YouTube, because there's hundreds of guys like that, and I don't know if they get any results. And I don't want to be. I'm not the kind of guy that just tries to sell stuff. If you want to buy it, I'll sell it to you, but I'm not trying to sell it to you. So that's not my thing. I'm not a hustler like that. So a lot of guys are. They're always looking for the next deal.
You're a farmer, not a hunter.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's it. That's a sales. That's a sales term. I mean, it's I'm the same way. I don't go after big pieces of business. People find me because of my reputation, about my knowledge when I've spoken in public, on my main job, my 9 to 5 is in the medical sales field. So I have this niche that I specialize in, and there's not many of us. So it's a small world. So when somebody needs something that I have, they know to call me because there's one maybe other person that knows what they're doing. And so, it's the mindset in that sales capacity is that I just go about making sure that people know I exist and that I know, this is my area of expertise. They find me and I don't need to sell them. I'm not hunting for the next deal. They find me, and that's work for me. Right now, my 9 to 5, I'm very busy at the end of the year because a lot of customers want to move their business. Can I take on that all? Well, it's very, very busy, but I have to prioritize that first because that right now pays for everything else.
Yeah.
And how about then? Well, aside from the full-time gig, Rob, how about the content creation now that the campaign's over? Where do you see that as a priority, and how would you sort of fit that around the 9 to 5?
The Disney content creation, I used that during the campaign as my escape. That I know that I'm going to start a podcast or a program or a vlog, whatever you want to call it. And so I've taken the time to write out the documentation, what I would send to a guest, all those things. I've been working on those things for quite a long time because I don't need to actually be in production to do those things. And the key of my program is I'm going to be asking the same question to a number of different people over a long period of time so that I have a main program. I've got clips that I can use on a TikTok or Reels or something to that effect. And then I can do a remix of subject matter versus guest interviews. So I can take that content. So really what I've been building over the last 3 months is a series of questions and how I would ask them. Because when you will watch this show, and I've all threatened you that you won't know that it exists until there's 10 episodes in the can. When you watch the show, you're only going to see probably about 40 minutes, maybe an hour of the show. But I'm going to be probably filming an hour and a half, 2 hours, because there's going to be a lot of other content that'll be recut into different episodes. So that's the planning. That's the work I've been doing. And for my sanity, we've discussed the craziness of what happened to me during the campaign. The thing, my happy place was going in and opening that folder up and opening the Word documents in those folders and just, writing questions, because that got my mind off of the craziness, and that allowed me to go to sleep at night.
I've talked about that before myself, of not your situation, but the fact that where your mind sort of wanders to, and that was what I found with the content creation. Whereas for the first sort of I suppose year, it was a case of 2 hours in the morning was the time that I spent doing it. But then I did find that in those moments in the day where my mind wandered to something else, it was often wandering to the ideas for content creation or courses or things like that I wanted to do. And I mean, in my case, the priorities that I had was, this was a really sort of a low priority, but I felt like it was quite high importance to me, if that makes sense. I couldn't give it the time that I felt like I wanted it to. But then, a series of circumstances came up through the year. I suppose really, I talked about this, that last September, I guess, is the time when I feel that I got out of being consistent. So I really had a very short period where I felt in myself that I was just sort of running along at a consistent pace and everything was coming out as it should. And then it was about September that a few little ripples appeared in some other things that I was doing. And they could have kind of caused a distraction to me. But then, yeah, that really sort of came to a head, I would guess, sort of April. I wouldn't guess, I can tell you it was April because it was right in the middle of Cedar. That, yeah, these things that were going on in one of my other business interests was basically just dominating everything. And that was when I basically sort of pulled out or shelved this project that I was working on. Had some issues with, got two partners in that, and had some issues with one of them. And it was just a case of, right, well, I'm actually going to, rather than continue with this, I'm going to shelve this project till, I said until the start of next year, 2023. Now we'll probably push it back a little bit further than that as well. But it was that really sort of shifting of a priority and saying, right, well, the time that I was spending on this, I'm actually going to refocus on something else. And so I shifted that time over to the content creation. Then other priorities that come up is, in personal life. So I had a number of personal things that came up during the middle of the year as well, which again sort of dominated my mind space, for want of a better word. And that again sort of distracted me. So I think with all of these things, though, whilst I've felt that I haven't been consistent with the content creation, it's a bit like when we were talking about the challenges in the last episode, that I don't really beat myself up over the fact that I haven't been as consistent as I would have liked to have been with the content creation, just because these other things came in and they had to take priority. So that's sort of where I am with these priorities. But I definitely would put, content creation from a time perspective is my top priority. I still have to divert time to other things, but it's the thing that is first and foremost in my mind these days, that I want to really just sort of build this out, and then everything else can sort of fit around that. So I definitely do prioritize the content creation now in that respect.
Tell you what, it's all about processes, man. Once you get the processes down and just figure out how, A, B, C, D, it's a little bit easier to hand things off or to get help or to even do stuff. So you can have time to even think while you're mindlessly punching buttons. You can have time to think of other things. It's hard to do that, but yeah, once you have the processes down and you can document it, it's a little bit better, a little bit easier to work with others if you have it all documented like that.
Yep.
Checklists and whatnot.
The next thing, I really like what you've done. That's other mentors that I've been talking with before we, this last mentor has been telling me, yeah, you really need a VA to do some of those things, because these are the things that you need to do, that you have to do. Somebody else, these things have to get done. They don't have to get done by you, but the stuff that you need to do, that's where your focus needs to be. And I've heard that from two other mentors. So now I'm like, okay, now I feel like I've worked a little bit in my content creation such that, okay, I have a little bit of a system, and now I need to fine tune it so that I can say, okay, here, you do this. I need to do the forward facing stuff. You can do this back end stuff. But that's one of the things that I think over the past year I've been honing, so that, it becomes easier and it's duplicatable, so that I can then now give this to someone and say, okay, here, look at this. Now you do it.
I wonder if the key that we're missing in a lot of cases, I've just been thinking, listening to Rich talking about his system and knowing yours, Michelle, and Alec and Dina and I still trying to figure ours out, and Rob returning to his. I wonder if the one piece of advice that we should be giving to other content creators right now is document right away. Because we have all undergone this whole, we've gone through this transformation, and we've built, and we've got these, these streams of content going out, but we were so busy doing it, and we've been so busy fighting the fires or perfecting or improving or adding these things that we didn't stop to document anywhere along the way. And in fact, like this whole podcast is us going, oh, wait a minute, we've been doing this really cool thing together for the last, 8 months. Wouldn't it be neat if we actually documented it? So here we are. So do you think that's got some validity, and maybe that's kind of the advice we could be giving out to other creators?
Well, and I think it's the simplicity of needing to document these things and understand what your thinking is, so that you can, discuss it with friends and say, I'm thinking of doing this. And so you have something to go back to. But I think there's also, it helps you flush out, the idea better. And if you can come back to it a day or two or a week later and read that executive summary or whatever that, show idea is that you put down in 25, 150 words, whatever, and it still makes sense to you a week later, then you've got something. And then you can start adding on to it. And, for me, it's just the fact that, I knew I was going to have to set this aside in terms of production, just for all of the other things that I was doing in my life with the campaign and family. But it didn't leave my mind. It kept me thinking. It kept me happy. And so I was able to go back and document that. And now I've got, I'm much further ahead than I would have been if I would just stop cold and not done anything at all. And it was just, obviously I was, I announced that I was running for this office a year and a half ago. But I would say that every week I did something. And so now I have, some of it's worthless. Let's be honest. But, at the same time, a lot of it is going to be usable, and it's going to be able to be formed into, the bulk of the production. And I don't have to recreate the wheel now. I've taken that time over the past, 18 months and built something, and now I can move forward with it when I'm ready to pull the trigger. And that's going to be pretty soon.
I think the other advice is to give yourself the grace. And I'm going to go with an example that is in flight in my mind right now. I needed to plant onions and garlic a month ago. Not a month ago. So right before Thanksgiving is when I really should have done it. And I couldn't. Everything was falling apart. I couldn't get it done. And the thing that kept holding me back was this thing. It only takes an hour. It takes an hour to just get out there and do it. But I kept on feeling like I had to have the camera out there to film, to record myself doing it and use it as content. And this is something I really struggle with a lot. I cannot tell you how much food has been wasted in this kitchen this year because I've said, you need to record cooking this thing. And then it just doesn't get done. Right. And so there's the financial hit, the what do you call it? The hit to my principles. Oh my God, wasting food is so high on my principle list. I think I might actually vote for the other side of the aisle before I would waste food. So it's a big, that's an extreme example. I couldn't do that either.
God.
Give me a break. Give me a break. But it's
no
politics.
No politics. Thanks.
Next episode, interventions.
But my point is there is such a strong pull to make sure that I'm documenting and creating as I do this, but I can't. I just can't do it every time. And I am on the edge right now of making the call that I'm just not going to be able to record planting onions and garlic this year because I get an hour and a half of sunlight after work. And then I've got weekends, but looking at the forecast right now, it's going to rain on Saturday, Sunday, and it's going to be snowing all of next week. I need to get that food in the ground now. Otherwise, we don't have garlic and onions for the 2023-2024 season. So,
you can always document the harvest. It's not like you have only one option.
Right.
Well, and
I have documented the harvest. But if I want to be a teacher, and so I'm working through this right now, as we're speaking, if I want to be a teacher and share this knowledge that I have with my community, then really I should be recording the how to start it. How to harvest it doesn't mean jack if you don't know how to start it. So there is this tug of, do I short my community this educational piece just so I can get my food into the ground? And I think that's what I'm going to have to do to just relieve some of this stress.
You can't give away, you can't impart all of the information that you've got in your mind like in one go in any case, and the earth will travel around the sun again, and then the opportunity will be there next year. So it's not a case of you've got to do it all like right now. So I wouldn't beat yourself up about that. If you've got other stuff to do and there is other priorities, then as you say, give yourself that grace to say that, well, yeah, okay, this season is not the season that I'm going to talk about, planting the garlic. It can wait until next time around, because there's plenty of other great stuff you can share.
Oh, I was going to say, what if because I feel you on that, because sometimes you have the idea, you want to do it, and it's like, dang, I don't have everything set up, but just do it. Just go ahead and do it. And then can you recreate, in a short or some other kind of situation? So you don't waste the food, you've done the thing that had to get done, right? And then B, you can still go back and talk about it. Maybe it's not happening at that time, but then you could kind of recreate. It's like, okay, well, this is how you would do it.
Right. I was gonna suggest the same thing. Bring a pot into the kitchen. Bring something with soil in it, and recreate it in the kitchen, because you've already got the camera set up. You've already got the lighting. Just drop it on the table, hit record, and plant it in the kitchen, and move on from there. And then you can do that regardless. Yeah.
I could do that. Yeah. There are 1,000,001 ways to do it. And I think for this year, the right thing for me is to give myself the grace and say, getting the job done, that's next year's lesson.
Yeah, sure.
I think what you're proposing, Rob, makes perfect sense, but I also think that something that we do to ourselves as creators is we keep holding on to this thing of, I have to teach, or I have to do this, I have to show up. And at some point, you're no good for anybody if you keep on doing that.
Right.
So yeah. And priorities, I'm thinking this little guy is little for 1 minute, of the next 12 years. Maybe I should take the rest of the month off from creating, except for the planning, the strategy part that I can do, in order to really capitalize on this precious time. So I may do that. And there is a tug, but we have to give ourselves that grace and the ability to make that call for ourselves. Because frankly, I came into this on my own. And people, our communities know us and respect us for making the choices that we make. And we have to just do the right thing for ourselves. And I think our communities will be supportive of that.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I know that the time that I've taken off or, slowed down this year, people will say like, oh, you've got to be consistent. You've got to put out, these things at the exact same intervals and all that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, we're all human, and people, I think, know that. So like you say, if you're speaking to your audience or your community, then, and they understand that there's other things going on, then people are generally understanding of these things. So yeah, it is great to be consistent, but when other things come up, people know that we're not necessarily, this isn't putting the food on the table, as it were, all the time. Then there is other priorities. I think coming back to that thing of giving yourself that grace in terms of documenting things. I'd understood your point there, Keely, a little bit different in terms of, did you mean documenting the actual process of what we're doing, or do you mean documenting in terms of creating the content? Because when it comes to documenting
our process,
Absolutely. Yeah, for that, for me, I still feel that I'm still finding my process. So everything I'm doing is, in a way, I'm documenting it, but I'm not literally writing down the steps that I take to, upload a video, for example. But then I'm still figuring out, those aren't the parts that I have difficulty with doing and figuring out. And so part of, we'll talk about goals in a future episode coming up for, next year. But one of the things that I want to do for that is to actually get this whole sort of content plan in place that is content distribution, I suppose, plan in place. And when I've done that and sort of it is bedded in properly, I'll then feel probably by the end of the first quarter of next year that I've actually got things running like a machine. That's where I want to get to. I want to feel like that about it. And that's what I see that plan will do once I've implemented it. And once I get to do that, then I'll feel ready more to actually document these things. And so it comes back to this thing about grace for new creators to not necessarily feel like you've got to get it right straight away. You will find out what works. You will find out where things sort of fit in with your other life, your priorities. You'll figure out what's taking the most time, things that you maybe don't think about when you start out that will take time away from that. So that's another thing of just, it does take time to figure these things out, even if somebody else has told you, a way to do it.
Yeah. The flip side to that, though, I think, is that when I heard you say all that, I thought, oh God, you're selling yourself so short, because it's not that you don't have a process right now. You said, I don't think I've got it right, so I'm going to wait until I get it right before I actually pass it on to anybody else or try to document it. And that's exactly the friction that we're all experiencing, because we're like, well, I don't really, I'm not uploading the best way, or I don't have the best system to get my titles done, or whatever the case might be. And then we're still stumbling along, and we still don't have the time to do all the things that we want to do. And it's almost like, if we can create dirty, like scrappy, and just get something done, like Dina, when you pulled out your assembly of the kitchen island, which was so good. And I mean, you didn't do anything special for that. You just recorded yourself, time-lapsed it, sped it up. And I'm like, bang, I'm staring at that the whole time. That's fantastic content. And we're now using that same sort of perfectionism paradigm, putting that on the way that we create, such that, well, no, I can't possibly let somebody into this because I don't have it right. So I need to push myself past that, I think. And that's why I think documenting as we go would help us get over that.
Are you talking about documenting to outsource it, or are you talking about documenting to share the information, which or both?
Yeah, well, mostly documenting to outsource, because we had been talking about getting VAs in place and that sort of thing.
I'm just at the point now where there is nothing that I want to outsource right now. So that's not a case of like, oh, I can't outsource it because I don't have the document. I don't want to outsource anything right now. I'm really enjoying the process of figuring it all out. So it's not the case of like, oh, I haven't documented it and therefore now I'm stuck in this situation where I can't outsource anything. It's that I'm not wanting to outsource right now. I am wanting to just do it myself and enjoy that sort of process. When it comes to documenting it, there will be some things that I'll outsource, some basic repetitive tasks like, planning live streams or things like that, I guess, those sort of things. But I will also, for sure, there will be a course coming in terms of how to, do all the things. So that will be my primary reason for actually documenting everything, will be to once I've got my system figured out, that's what I'll document to then create the course. But in the meantime, I'm quite happy to do everything myself and enjoying it all.
Okay. So clearly this is just me looking at Rich going, man, I wish I was doing what Rich is doing. and feeling this real envy about finding somebody that can help and can take that load off and, be able to make him, Rich, I can tell you're enjoying creating your content more right now and not feeling that pressure. So you just kind of,
it's fun. It's really fun when I get a notice at whatever, 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, because it's 6 o'clock at night where he is. He says, oh, here's this cut, this short or whatever. And I can review it on my phone and just make comments and send it back. It's very relieving. And I didn't stay up till 6 o'clock creating it. So it's fantastic. He's so fast. It's amazing. I'm sure he has tricks, but that I don't know.
Does he have a sister? Because I need help.
No, he's got there's a whole country full of those guys. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, though, Keely. Your FH Empire stuff is so specialized that I've often wondered how you would be able to even get someone to help you with that. I mean, it's, and I don't mean to say that your content is not specialized, Rich. It's just the value that you bring to the table in FH Umpires is so much steeped in how you describe something that it would be very interesting to see anybody help you do prep work or anything like that. I think it would only be in repurposing that you could really get that value for that pillar of your creation world. Yeah. So,
I'm trying. I'm trying. There is someone in my community who I've known for quite a while. She's been around for about 2 years, and she's actively sought me out again to say, look, I'm really ready. I want to help you out. I want to build some skills. And so I'm quite excited about that, and trying not to do too much, but I've brought her in. For example, one of her main projects is organizing this trip out to Amsterdam that we're doing as a community, as a getaway development group escape thing for Easter next year. So she's doing that. And I'm like, you're in charge. This is your jam, and just letting her fly because I can't help her anyway. I'm not on the ground in the Netherlands. So, but there's other things like I've added her into my ClickUp and said, hey, take a look around, and then we'll set aside an hour, which will end up being 2 hours. And I'll show you some of the things that it can do, but I'm just trying to relax with that and not think I need to have her actually doing things just yet, and just, doing it, bringing her in slowly, not expecting anything, and allowing her the chance to build some skills, because she does have the specialized umpire knowledge. She just doesn't have the technical skills that I need her to have. So we'll see. I don't know.
And when this works, it's going to free you up to do more or less, but it's going to free you up. And that's the key is that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love how we've revisited our VA episode already. We're on episode 11, and we're already calling back and going through our stuff from other episodes. I'm like, yep, this is podcasting, all right.
I tried to hire a VA a while back, and hearing what Rich had said before, I'm like, yep, been there, done that. Yep. So, yeah.
I think it's going to continue to evolve for all of us, though, really, isn't it? It's always a case of we've always going to have shifting priorities, shifting things going on. There'll be, we might well have a target that we're aiming for, and then other stuff is going to come up, or it may be that the target shift. I know with like Take One Tech for me, there's been a sort of shift in my focus just within that as well. So I think this is just going to continue to go on and on. So I dare say we'll be revisiting this episode many times in the future as we go through. I mean, we basically revisit it every week, don't we? When we all have our get together, like not the podcast. It's always about, there's this new opportunity come up, this new priority. And that is kind of like underlies everything that we do, doesn't it, really? So I think we've just got to give ourselves grace, as Dina says, to move with things as they come up, and not be hard on ourselves when we get dragged away from the content creation sometimes. And the best way to be with everything.
I'm thankful that I was able to join you and continue to join you in the future. And thanks for making a little adjustment to the schedule so I can go be an old man and come here and be here on time for recording this. But I thank you all for being my friends and supporting me the last 18 months of sheer craziness that my life has been, and hopefully my life will get back to normal, and the creation can happen more easily. Thank you.
Thanks for hopping onto our Creators Pod. If you enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you didn't like it, tell your friends. We'd love a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can check out our YouTube channel, Creators Pod. The Creators Pod is produced by C22 Media. Alec Johnson, Dina Taylor, Keely Dunn, Michelle Lawrence, Robb Vaules, and me, Rich Gray.
Thanks. Say hi to your sister for me.
I will. Say hi to your mother for me.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
His mother.
That is an outtake if I've ever heard one.